Bacon wrote that while building the foundations of the scientific method, the man who taught the world to question everything and still could not fully escape what the mind does when it needs to be certain. Most people assume that intelligence protects against false beliefs, that the more rigorous the mind, the less likely it is to believe something wrong. The evidence suggests the opposite. Brilliant minds don't believe less. They believe more efficiently. And when the mechanism misfires, it misfires with extraordinary precision. A belief is not a conclusion. That is the first thing to understand. Conclusions follow from evidence. Beliefs are adopted quickly, often unconsciously, because they serve a function. They reduce uncertainty. They provide identity. They make the world navigable. The mind doesn't believe things because they're true. It believes things because believing them costs less than not believing them. This is true for every mind, but it becomes visible, sometimes spectacular, in minds that are also capable of extraordinary precision, because precision and belief are not opposites. They operate in different layers of cognition. Psychologists call this domain specificity. The competence doesn't transfer. The habits of skepticism that a physicist applies to data don't automatically apply to questions outside physics. The mind doesn't generalize its own rigor. There's a widespread assumption that education corrects belief, that the more a person knows, the better calibrated their convictions become. The research does not support this. In 2019, psychologist Dan Kahan at Yale Law School conducted a decade-long study on what he called the science curiosity paradox. His finding: people with higher scientific literacy were not less likely to hold politically motivated beliefs. In some domains, they were more likely because they were better equipped to find arguments that justified what they already wanted to believe. Kahan called this identity protective cognition. The mind doesn't use its intelligence to evaluate beliefs. It uses its intelligence to defend them. And the more sophisticated the mind, the more sophisticated the defense. Goya understood something that cognitive science would take 2 more centuries to name. That reason doesn't protect against the irrational. Reason that is not directed at itself produces something worse than ignorance. It produces confident error. In 1976, psychologist Peter Wason at University College London designed what became one of the most replicated experiments in cognitive psychology, the Wason selection task. Participants were given 4 cards and a rule and asked to determine which cards needed to be turned over to test whether the rule was true. The correct answer required disconfirmation, testing the rule by looking for evidence that would falsify it. Less than 10% of participants got it right. The result held across all education levels. Highly educated participants performed only marginally better. The mind defaults to confirmation, to seeking evidence that supports what it already suspects. Wason called it confirmation bias. The bias is not a flaw in reasoning. It is a default architecture of how the brain manages information under uncertainty. What makes brilliant minds different is not that they escape confirmation bias. It's that their intelligence amplifies it. A researcher who has spent 20 years building a theory has 20 years of investment in its truth. The more the mind knows, the more it has to lose by being wrong. Isaac Newton spent more time writing about biblical prophecy than about physics. His unpublished manuscripts, over 1 million words, are almost entirely devoted to decoding the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation. He believed, with the same methodical precision he applied to celestial mechanics, that he had identified the date of the apocalypse, 2060. Newton didn't hold these beliefs despite his rigor. He applied his rigor to them. Arthur Conan Doyle, creator of the most rationally precise fictional detective in literary history, became one of the most prominent advocates of spiritualism in early 20th century Britain. After the death of his son in World War I, Doyle attended hundreds of seances, published books defending spirit photography, and publicly supported mediums who were later proven to be frauds. He was shown evidence of deception. He found alternative explanations for each piece of it. Linus Pauling won 2 Nobel Prizes, one in chemistry, one for peace. In his later years, he became convinced that massive doses of vitamin C could cure cancer. He dismissed clinical trials that contradicted it, attributing negative results to flawed methodology. He died at 93, still certain. The Nobel Committee that had honored his chemistry never once endorsed his vitamin C claims. He didn't notice the gap. There's a cost to unexamined belief that doesn't show up as error. Error can be corrected. The cost that's harder to measure is what happens to the architecture of thought when a mind learns to protect its beliefs instead of examining them. It becomes less permeable. The capacity for genuine surprise decreases, and with it, the capacity for genuine discovery. Psychologist Leon Festinger at the University of Minnesota coined the term cognitive dissonance in 1957 after spending time with a doomsday cult whose predicted apocalypse had failed to arrive. The members didn't abandon their beliefs. They intensified them. They reinterpreted the non-event as evidence that their prayers had saved the world. Festinger's conclusion: the more a person has invested in the belief, the more resistant they become to evidence against it. Blake painted Newton not as a hero of reason, but as a figure of tragedy, bent over his compass, measuring the world with perfect precision, entirely blind to the ocean surrounding him. The painting is about the cost of a certain kind of intelligence, one that has mastered the measurement of what it already decided to look at and has stopped looking up. Intelligence and belief are not in conflict. They never were. The mind that constructs the most elaborate theories is the same mind that constructs the most elaborate justifications for what it already believes. Precision doesn't protect against conviction. It serves it. The question was never whether a brilliant mind could hold a strange belief. The question is whether any mind, regardless of its brilliance, has developed a specific capacity to examine its own convictions with the same rigor it applies to the world outside. That capacity is not intelligence. It is something rarer, and it does not arrive automatically with knowledge. It has to be built, slowly, uncomfortably, against the direction the mind naturally wants to move. The brilliant mind is not the one that never believes wrongly. It's the one that has learned to notice when it has stopped asking. Inner observer. Observe your mind. Understand reality.